Welcome back, everybody. Episode 67 of Canes Local. We'll talk games 1, 2, and 3 of round 2 around the league and much more coming up next. All right, guys, let's dive in. Thoughts on games 1, 2, or 3. I guess let's start at game 1. Thoughts on how the Canes looked in game 1.
It was a very dominant game one, which is very not typical of Carolina on the road. I think that that's one of the positive things that I liked seeing out of that and the New Jersey series is we were able to win games on the road. In a series like this, you have to steal home ice, and that's exactly how you do it. Because now, if Carolina wins out on home, they win the series in Washington's favor. It's in Carolina's favor. Like if Washington has to win one on the road now in order to win. So it puts the ball right back in Carolina's court. They go ahead and clean up home ice on game 3. But to go back to game 1, I mean, outside of the one goal, I would say Anderson looked stellar. And then on top of that, the whole lineup was ready to go. And I think some of it had to do with Washington not really playing that well. And I will give them that. It wasn't like Carolina just played that much superior. I don't think Washington played good. Everybody in the arena kind of could tell that. Carolina was ready to go. They weren't. And just to kind of reiterate, 12 shots in the first period for Carolina, 5 for Washington. In the second, Washington had 6, Carolina had 8, 11 in the third for 3 for Washington. And then in overtime, 2-0. Final shot total 33-14. Carolina only allowed 14 shots to one of the more deadly offenses in the NHL as far as the regular season was concerned. And, I mean, they scored a lot of goals against Montreal as well, too. But, yeah, I just thought big time goal by Stankoven.
Yeah.
We needed something to bounce our way. He got it, and then Slavin finishes the deal in overtime. So, happy that we were able to get that win.
Yeah, I think it was more of they definitely came ready to play for sure. I don't know. If I was Washington, I'd be kind of, and obviously they changed it a little bit in game 2, but even rolling over from game 1 to game 2, they didn't really have that jump again. Like the Canes were all over them again, to start game 2.
Yep.
And then obviously the reverse happened in game 3 where the Canes were, pretty rough at the start and then ended up turning it on at the end. But yeah, game 1 was good. They had to win one on the road. They had to.
Yeah.
Like they had to. So to get it out of the way in game 1, I mean, that kind of alleviates a lot of pressure from the rest of the series.
Yeah.
Because you go into let's say you go into game 5 or game 7 and you have to win on the road. Like that's a lot tougher of a task. So no, it's good that they got one for sure. Winning, and especially game 1 too. Setting a precedent for the rest of the series as well to say, hey, look, it might be low-scoring games, but at the end of the day, we're going to find a way to win. And they won a lot of overtime games, especially in the playoffs. So it's nice to see.
Yeah. I know. I think the biggest the takeaway for me too is, Kyle, your shot count was 32 to 14 or whatever the number was, but I mean, Washington had 30 odd block shots. I mean, it was insane.
It could have been 50.
Carolina had 92
I mean, everybody's
shot
barking at
attempts
this shot attempt thing, and they're sort of okay. Shot attempts, big deal, But at the same time, it almost looked like, I don't want to jump ahead to game 3, but it almost looked like they stopped funneling pucks to the net in the first period. They stopped doing that, but again, they didn't have a great start to game 3, so I'll put a little bit on that. But I just think the absolute physicality component, which is what I was really most concerned about going into that series in game 1. I think Carolina matched it and elevated it, and they took it to them to a new level. And, and it took them off their game. I mean, the Capitals they're a big, heavy, bullyish kind of team, and they make you not play to your game because they do that, because they make you worried about going into the corner, going down the wall, getting run over by some of these big defensemen they have, and Tom Wilson. I mean, he's just He's like a nut job running around the ice just trying to hit guys. Um, I will say though that he played well in game two. Yeah,
I was gonna say I
yeah,
will get to that game too. One final point with that game one before we kind of wrap that one up, for at least from my point of view. Carolina, I think, figured something out in game one. They figured out that if they can play with that amount of pace, it doesn't matter
yep.
how physical Washington can be. You can't really get a full contact on a guy when you're out when you can't take the right angle on him. And you saw it like 3 or 4 times in that game one where Wilson was running after a guy and Martinook got out of the way of a hit, but that was because he's playing with pace. He's playing with urgency. And when we play with that level of pace, it nullifies a little bit of that physicality Washington can bring. I think in game two, we let off the gas pedal about halfway through the game, and that's what ended up leading to Washington playing a way more physical style of game, a way more just kind of
Mm-hmm.
heavier game, and it led to it ended up leading to the game-winning goal, the play by Wilson over to Carlson, and then they ended up getting the empty netters to solidify the deal. But I want to give props where props are due. I don't necessarily like this player. If he was on our team, I would love him to pieces. But Tom Wilson's game two might have been
Yep.
the most impactful game of hockey I've seen out of a single player in a long time. It wasn't the flashiest. It wasn't like, but there were like 4 opportunities he stopped. He broke up defensively coming back. He blocked like 3 or 4 shots. He had a beautiful assist on the game winner. He was hitting everything that, I mean, like, I don't want to like glaze the guy up or anything, but like, I mean, it was arguably one of the best
Yep.
playoff performances I've seen. Now, granted, he didn't really do it in game one, nor did he do it in game three, but like that game two, that was
Yep.
lights out from him.
No, I think it was just a different. He realized that they needed to win game two. If they lost
Yep.
game two, that, I mean, yeah, I mean the not the series. The series wouldn't have been over, but it would have been probably a 5-game series at that point. The Canes would have probably won 5.
Yep.
If you're still 2 on the road, I mean,
Yeah.
you're not going to win 2 in Carolina. Like you're just not. You might win 1, but I don't see a team right now that can win
Yep.
2 in Carolina. So
Yeah.
as long as they can take 1 on the road, they'll be all right.
Yeah, I know he was my by far my number one star in game two. Because like I said, he had his fingerprints all over the game. You know, you hate it, but from a hockey purist kind of look at it, I mean, you love to see guys like that. That's a playoff player. That
It was a beautiful display.
it
of
was
the
it was
game.
a playoff player showing what he can do in the playoffs, and I think we do have guys laid on the line like like last night. Martinook. Takes one
Yep.
off, and you guys saw where he got hit. I mean, there's no padding there. There's nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's skin, and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't see
he
where
got
he got
hit
hit.
right
Where
on the
did he
inner.
get hit?
Yeah, right on the inner side of the quad,
Ooh,
right on
yeah.
the inside, and it was like
Yeah.
right above the
Oh,
knee.
yeah,
You
that
know,
sucks.
that little area, that little fleshy area
Yeah.
that there's absolutely no padding.
The only nice thing is that it's probably a very bad bruise. That's the positive. If it hits the inside of the knee, sometimes you're worried about a
Yeah,
possible break of something, and that would be a bigger issue. But like that really muscly area, it hurts
yeah,
like
Yeah, it
hell.
does.
Like you
yeah,
can't move your leg, but it's
yeah.
typically something it's a really bad bruise, but that's
You
the
know,
extent
I
of the
think he
injury,
came
which is
out
a
of the
very
game at
positive
that
thing.
point, and he didn't come back in. But I think if it was a close game, he'd still be playing. But they said, look, let's just set it. Let's take a look at it, bring it back, and we're up 3-0. I don't remember how many minutes was left in the game, or 4-0. I don't remember if we were up 4 at the time, but no sense of sense of trying. If there is something there, let's make sure 100% because we need this guy going forward.
Do you, Do you think that's the transition from Rod in previous years, where now, because we've had so many injury troubles in years past in playoffs, it's like now if a guy has a little bit of an ailment, if we're in a good spot, he's not like, I think Freddie could have played
Mm-hmm.
game 5 in last series. I think he was opted not to by Rod being like, hey, let's take this slow. We're in a really good spot in this series. We're up 3-1 right now. We don't necessarily need to win game 5. We can, kind of grind it out if we need to. But do you think that's an adjustment from Rod, or do you think it's just the guys are being like, I can't go tonight, or I can't return, or something like
I
that?
mean,
Um,
I would
I
think.
just feel like it's something different than in years past where guys were just bagging it through
yeah.
injuries.
Well, I think most. I think everybody to a certain extent is playing with something. You know, I think I would be shocked if Aho's not playing with through something at this point. He's been kind of not a ghost, but he hasn't been the same kind of player that we've seen. I mean, Svech has really kind of been carrying that line realistically, and then
Yeah.
obviously you see the flip last night with Rod kind of put a grenade in the lines where he put Stalkere, Martinook together, and then he rotated Jarvis onto the first line and put Blake down on the fourth line with Roslovic and Robinson. So it was, yeah. I mean, it's interesting because it
Yeah.
worked.
It
I mean,
worked.
obviously it worked for sure. So I think at a certain point, the line combinations get too comfortable as far as even like the away team matchups. So they basically say like, hey, we're comfortable with this line being out there because they've done it for a game and a half. So if you
Yep.
throw a monkey wrench into it, it's like, okay, this guy hasn't matched up against this guy yet. And maybe he matched up against him one or two shifts, here and there, but generally he didn't. So it kind of it gives a new look, and maybe somebody loses an assignment or somebody
Mm-hmm.
doesn't know what a certain guy's going to do or how he's going to react. So
Mm-hmm.
he made the adjustment at the right time. I'll give him a
Yeah.
lot of props for that. It needed to happen. The game was kind of, and he even said it in the bench interview, they just weren't playing good. And
Yeah.
then after the bench interview, you had the Stahl, Martinook, and Carrier shift where they, hemmed them in their own end, and then the next shift they score the goals. So it's a product of being able to make the adjustments before it's too late. Because I think if they would have stayed with those lines even through the rest of the second period, I don't even know if they would have changed anything. But
Yeah.
as far as, I mean, I know I kind of got off track with the interview stuff, but the
Yeah. I was going to say to back to your
yeah,
question, Kyle. I think it's a little bit of both. I think Rod and the player. I think the Rod and the player they have enough. They have a good enough relationship. I think, in for the most part, that I think Rod knows if he can go, and he wants him to go, he'll go. But the player also knows that he can also say, "Look, I said I'm not going to be helpful to the team enough. This guy can be more helpful." I think they have that kind of discussion. I think more so than they have in the past. Let's put it that way. So I don't know that it's necessarily you know you got to go. It's kind of like the line from the movie in Miracle. It's like, can he hurt himself any worse? And can he do it? And couldn't he do any more damage? Then I think it. But then it's all situational too. So where you are in the game, where you are in the series. Do you push this guy one more step, and then all of a sudden it's something unforeseen that you said, he can't hurt it any worse, but can he? And
yeah,
do you give him another half a period off, or give him a little bit of time to recover to get ready for the next game? So I think to long way to get to the answer of your question. I think it's a little bit of both, but it's definitely different than it was.
And then the last like 5 minutes of the game, the TNT feed just kept completely cut out, and then I had like a 2.5 minute long commercial break for some reason on my end
Hmm.
through Max. What happened with Chatfield? Did he go
I
I think
think
down?
it.
early, I think
I
early
don't
on
know
in
if
the
it was
game he
this
got
game.
hit.
Yeah,
He got hit in the side, like in the hip.
it's
Um,
either his hip or his rib or
Yeah,
like
because
it's
they were
somewhere
they
on
were
the side
really
of his
working the
body.
hip side of it with the little machine
The
there to.
Theragun, yeah.
So and he was laboring. You could definitely tell he had a hard time turning one way. He had a
Hmm.
hard time pushing off. He wasn't on pucks as quickly as he was even early on in the game. So I think
Yeah,
he's got something going on anyways. And because there was
he looked
times when
good the
he
last 12
he
minutes,
could have
like you
gotten to the
said.
puck where he didn't.
Yeah,
So I just think he's playing with something that may be a little bit more significant than anybody wants to think. But he definitely didn't play the last 12 minutes of the game, 12, 15 minutes of the game. So we'll see what happens. If he's, if he can, I don't know if 80% or a 75% Jalen Chatfield's better than 100%, Alexander Nikishin or Nikishin or whatever you want to call him. But, I think this is the opportunity to see him in the lineup in game 4.
Yeah, it really just depends. I think it's a, and obviously they have that conversation too, because if Chatfield's if he says, "Hey, I'm good to go, I'm better," do you run the risk of I guess it really just depends on the morning skate. Like if he can skate tomorrow, because they're not going to practice today. Um, so if they get into the morning skate, and if he doesn't skate, I think you see Nick Shin rotate with a partner up in the
Mm-hmm.
top six. I think that would be. I mean, even if you put him with Orlov, you know, obviously they can communicate
Yeah.
better than. I know that was kind of their concern, was that they couldn't communicate very well. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see though. So I'd like to see him in the lineup, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, Chatfield's the one that has to go down. So
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, to be honest, I mean, I think, I mean, maybe you guys have a different opinion, but I think Orlov's has had a really good playoffs at this point. I think he played pretty well last night. Um, so I think Ghost still looks lost at times. I mean, on the power play at one point, I mean, I tell you what, I don't think he knew where he was. It was like, but the whole power play, the whole first power play looked disjointed last night, anyways, early on in the game. I'm glad to see the second unit get rewarded, but I will say that the power play started getting more pucks through quicker. Even on the first unit, I mean, Svetch was shooting the puck. They were firing the puck on net. They were trying to get it through. Um, I mean, Ghost looked like Burns just getting shots into shin guards. I mean, it was just unbelievable. I don't know if he's playing with some kind of injury too, but he, in my opinion, maybe you guys disagree, but he just looks a little bit lost at the moment.
Yeah, I think part of that also could be brand new father as well too. It's he look. I thought in all honesty, and I, I might be crazy and call me crazy, and I get it, but I thought he looked better in game one and game two than he did game
Mm-hmm.
three, and when he's on the road getting a full night's rest in game one and game two. And this is no offense to the family. I'm happy for the guy, everything like that. But like, it probably makes a difference. I mean, whether I doubt he's doing night duties or anything like that while he's the night before a playoff game. But you hear the baby crying. You have the mornings. You have like there's just different aspects of it to where you're not fully focused on the game, and it felt a little bit like that. And again, brand new father, like that's probably a whole different ball game. I don't know the feeling, so I again, but like there could be a little bit of difference in that. And also another brand new father as well too, Sebastian Aho. We kind of saying the same thing. Didn't really look like himself last night. And yeah, I bet you injuries are definitely playing a piece of it, but there's also that aspect of it as well too, where a whole lot has just changed in both of those guys' lives that they've never had to deal with before, and now when they're in the middle of a playoff run, coming home to a brand new family, they got other responsibilities that they feel like they need to focus on, and I feel like we're
Yeah.
seeing a little bit of that as well too. I think a little bit of that could be playing into it, but I don't. I really like the idea of having Nikishin and Orlov together because Orlov, I think, plays better when he's playing
Yeah.
on the right side. I don't know why, but every time that we've had him on the right side, he seems to be playing really, really, really content. He plays good hockey. We had him on the right side last year for a period of time, I'm pretty sure, and he was phenomenal when he was over there. So throw him on the right side, put Nick Shin on the left side, and let it run. Don't change
Yep.
anything else up. You don't want to change a winning
Yeah.
lineup if you don't
So
have to.
let me ask you guys a question on I was a little bit surprised, but you guys tell me what you thought. That you put Roslovic on the second line and move Kokniemi to the fourth line. I was like, why in your mind would that be a better fit? Because I thought Kokniemi, Hall, and shit, who was on the other side, Stankoven. I thought they were
Stankoven.
pretty dynamic in the first two games. So why would you? I mean, I know Roslovic, you know, he comes back into the lineup, but how does that change better the team? I thought they looked worse early on in the game, obviously, but what's the why would you put Roslovic up there instead of having him down in his sort of a normal slot in on the fourth line?
Well, that was one of the changes that Rod made that ended up that was a mid game change because KK started up on that second line with Hall and Stankhoven. So that was one of the adjustments, and in all honesty, it's the same reason why Blake got moved down while Jarvis got moved up. It's just trying to get a
So
different
they
look
didn't
for
start.
different
I thought they
guys.
started the game that
Well,
way.
No.
no, KK was on. KK started on the
Oh well,
second line.
then disregard that idiotic question. So
Yeah, it started as Stankoven, Carrier, and Robinson on the fourth line. Maybe it was an adjustment. But maybe that was an adjustment from game two. And in all honesty, it's just, again, it's not like the fourth line doesn't play minutes. Carolina's fourth line plays the most amount of minutes. KK's still getting power play time. It's not like that's getting
yeah,
negated as well either. It's just a different look for different guys. I'm not opposed to it. Roslovic, when he
yeah.
comes in, he plays well. He plays hard. He does the little things right
know.
every
I just hate him
time
at
for
center.
the majority of the time. And yeah, I don't like
Yeah.
him at center. That's
Yeah.
the only problem I have with it. But we don't
So
have
so that
another
was my
option.
yeah. I know we don't have another. I think if
We don't
Jankowski's
have another
healthy,
option.
is Rostikov? Is he coming? He's basically coming back out of the lineup. Then that's what you're saying.
Does
I
he
know that's what
though?
I'm asking.
I mean, I don't know. I don't like
I
him at
would.
center, but was he effective?
Yeah.
Was he useful? Yeah.
Yeah,
He was
but
good
so was
there. I mean, I thought
Robinson,
that
and quite
No.
honestly, I think that right now, and I hate to say this because I've been his fan all year long, but I would say even Jackson Blake could come out of the lineup because he's not had
100%
a good
agree.
couple two or
I
three games.
100%
So
agree.
Yeah.
I was going to say that for the power play, I would flip flop the two rookies. I would put Stankoven up and Blake down, and just Stankoven's been really, really,
yeah,
really calm. And I get it's his second round in the playoffs, so it's a little bit of a different ball game. But
yeah,
man, he looks just poised with the puck when he has it. He's not throwing it away, and I feel like
yeah,
Blake's throwing it away a little bit right now, and he's gripping the stick. And this is different than the New Jersey series. I felt like he
hmm
got comfortable in the New Jersey series the second half, but it also wasn't nearly
yeah,
as physical as this is. You when
yeah,
43 is on the ice, because so when he's on, you can tell everybody on the ice, like, it's more of a survival
hmm
mode than anything else, and especially for a guy that's 5 foot nothing and doesn't really have a mean
yeah,
bone in his body. He's not usually in the scrums. He's not really going to get into the mixer at all. Like, he's not going to hack
hmm
guys and whack. Like, Stankoven's got a little bit of that
yeah.
piss and vinegar in him, but Blake doesn't. He's not that guy. That's not his role. And I just think kind of the same with Ryan Leonard coming out of the lineup for Washington. It just he's not been as
hmm
effective as he was. So maybe just give him a break, give him a game to see
yeah,
the ice from above, and be like, oh, I have more
yeah,
time than I
yeah.
think I do. But I totally agree. I think that he would be a fit for me to come out and keep
And I think
Roslovic in
I
the
think it'd be
lineup
good
and
for him too.
roll.
I think and I think the
I
other
agree.
just to watch the game from a different perspective and see how it plays out and how it all develops
Mhm.
and I don't necessarily I said like's the wrong word, but I find you know Biz a little bit overwhelming at times on the broadcast. I thought last night he did an exceptional job on the way he broke down the game, and maybe having Talkett on the panel too keeps him in check. I thought it was a good bounce back and forth. But the one thing they did talk about was you know like a player reset. Bringing a guy out of the game, taking him out of the game for a period of time to say, okay, you don't get to like. He was referring to the Darcy Kemper when he came out in I think it was in Arizona. He pulled him out for a 10-game stretch, and allowed him to work because starting goalies don't practice a lot, like they said. So
Yeah.
giving him a chance to
No.
reset and work with a coach and work on his systems and how he approaches each play and just gives him that restart, because you can get all kinds of stuff going around in your head, and then all of a sudden, you're all twisted around in the game, and you don't know what the hell's going on, which way is forward and backwards. So, I think for Jackson Blake, he's still young for sure, still going to be an elite player, but he's just got to see the game and understand it because we didn't play with pace in the first half of the game three. There was no pace to our game. That's why we were throwing the puck away. It seemed like it was like a men's league game out there for us. It was awful. It was awful to watch. And then,
Mhm.
you know, Rod is Rod. He's like, the guy asks, are we playing? He said, nope, we're not playing at all. So, we
Yeah.
just got to get going. We got get to another gear, and we did. And that's, we brought the crowd back into the game, and here we go.
Yeah, and it's about too like the fact that Freddie kept him in the game made a huge difference. I mean, it's a huge difference if you go into the the end of the second period and it's 2-0 Caps.
Yep.
Like
Huge
there's a
difference.
big difference. There's a huge difference. So the fact that it was still 0-0 halfway through the second, I know a lot of people saying it was a snooze fest, and I don't disagree with them. It was pretty boring to watch for about halfway through the game just because it was slow. And that's how Washington plays.
Yep.
The Canes played down to Washington's level. Washington wants to slow the game down. That's what I can't tell you how many times they held the puck behind the net just to slow it down, just to like really, put the brakes on everything. So it just becomes monotonous and really boring, and it's the high flip and the dump and chase, and it became they would dump the puck in but nobody would chase it.
Yeah.
That's kind of it would be just they dump it in, somebody would break it out, and then they dump it in, they break it out. It just ended up being that. So yeah, they definitely were able to hang in there more with Fred, and then I think Freddie's obviously been stellar, so I'm hoping his health continues because the Canes need him really bad. If they want to make a serious run, they need him really bad.
Buddy, you better be knocking on wood.
They really do.
I swear.
Him, like I don't.
Yeah.
I know I flip flop on Kochekov a lot, and I can see the regular season stuff and everything, but for him, he has to have. He always plays better after he's played a couple games. He never plays well, and like if you threw him into the mixer now, he probably would get lit up in one game. Like being honest, where Freddie wouldn't. So I don't know. I'm glad they re-signed Freddie for another year at this point, just because the free agent market for goalies is pretty brutal right now. So
there's not much.
Yeah, it's
And to be completely honest with you, only reason we were in that game, it would have been 2-3-0. Cam, I agree. I think Kochetkov does have some room to still improve, and hopefully he does ever get to that point. But we wait to see. Very happy with the 1-year signing on Freddie because the goalie market is just not great. But I think it's time that we move along to, unless you guys have anything else on the Canes, do you?
No, I think we're good. No. I think Game 4 coming up on Monday night, so we'll see. We'll hopefully see the same effort, or at least a better effort, the second half of the game effort in Game 4.
Yep.
So. But I guess let's move around the league and take a look everywhere else and NHL news, and a lot happening in the NHL this week, from the coaching standpoint. But let's take a look at some of the other series. Edmonton, Vegas last night. Vegas, big comeback win, and makes it a series at this point because Edmonton looked like they were going to run away with it. So, it's. No home team has won in that series at the moment, I don't believe. So there's no home ice advantage in the Vegas Edmonton series at the moment.
I'll tell you what, and maybe this is with a little bit of ill intent, but Calvin Pickard needs to be healthy here quick, because boy,
they can't afford much. They can't afford much Stu Skinner.
No,
they can't. He's terrible, man. I don't know how he has a starting job. I really don't know why they re-signed him. I think they signed him to a long-term contract as well. They've never been good with goalie signings, though. I mean, who was the last guy they signed that's playing in the AHL now?
Campbell.
Yeah, Campbell. Exactly.
Campbell.
Like, they signed him to a big contract, too, because they thought he was going to be the guy, and he's just horrible. Stuart Skinner he played well last playoffs, for sure, and that kind of earned him another contract.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's back to true form, kind of hoodwinked everybody, kind of like Evan Bouchard is the same way, kind of just hoodwinks everybody in the playoffs. And then
I'm slowly starting to disagree on the Evan Bouchard. He does have moments where he is absolutely out to lunch, don't get me wrong, but some of the plays he makes, it's hard to I don't know. There's not very many defensemen that can make half of the passes that he's making. It's like maybe 2 or 3, and it's Cale Makar, Quinn Hughes possibly. But outside of them, he's making some passes that I'm like, I don't know how he's finding these guys. Granted, again, a little bit of a liability in the defensive zone, 100%. But there's also times where he makes unbelievably good defensive plays. I forget there was one time it was a 2-on-1. He slides across, pokes the puck right off the stick and then moves it up the ice, and Edmonton has a 3-on-1 going the other way. I'm pretty sure it was on Edmonton's first goal last night, where the Perry one. He started that breakout with no, it was a different play. Don't worry about it. I talked myself.
I heard something. Yeah, I know, that's okay. I heard on the broadcast last night, and Instant Carter made the mention, and I want your 2 cents on this because I don't know if I agree or disagree. He was saying that basically Darnell Nurse has been their best defenseman all year, and I'm not sure that I don't know if I agree or disagree. I guess based on what the handful of games that I've seen, he just doesn't look like he's the best defenseman on the ice. But I'm not sure what he's I'm trying to get some perspective on what actually he's considering their best defenseman and why he's considering that. I can't get my head around it.
No idea.
I mean, I understand why he's saying it, because their true best defenseman is hurt. He's injured.
But to say it all year, I like Ekholm's been perfectly fine. Like until
that's what I mean. Like I'm thinking he's really talking about probably the playoffs. I have to assume.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give him a little bit of rope. If he's talking about all season,
Bouchard's been their best.
I don't know what he's smoking, but he's been nowhere near their best defenseman. I mean, it's Matthias Ekholm. Like, he's their best defenseman. Yeah. If we're talking about just a true, like, a defenseman of what he's supposed to do, it's Ekholm. And
and they're also saying,
I don't get it.
And they also said last night too that in order for them to go deep in the playoffs, they need to have Stuart Skinner.
Now they need Cal Pickard.
I mean, I get it, but they need Stuart Skinner. But even at his best, is Stuart Skinner a cup contending goaltender?
They brought him to a Game 7 in the Stanley Cup.
Brought him to I get it. So. I do. I get it. I understand that. So is that? Can he get to that level again? I mean, who knows? I mean, Pickard's been playing that way.
So that's the difference. Is Pickard? I think Pickard's been playing enough to win. He's been playing well enough to win games. Stuart Skinner last year stole them some games. That's the difference.
Yeah.
They had a Stuart Skinner last year steal them a couple hockey games that they didn't belong in. And he kept them in the game when they didn't belong in it. Calvin Pickard is playing well enough for them to win hockey games. That's what they're saying when they're saying they need Stuart Skinner. They need that Stuart Skinner that can come in a game last night when Vegas starts rolling. They need a Stuart Skinner that can make a big save. That can more, or that Riley, whatever, what's the guy? Craig Smith. Riley Smith.
Riley
Good
Smith.
God, it took me forever to get Riley Smith when he scored his second goal last year. Stuart Skinner, that's a big save, and it keeps it a 2-1 hockey game instead of a 2-2 game with them scoring 2 goals in 40 seconds. That deflated a lot of what Edmonton had going for them. I think if they get a save there, I think it's a different ball game altogether, and I think Edmonton's up 3-0 in this series right now. That's what they're talking about when they're saying that. We're not saying, the Stuart Skinner we have been getting. They need that Stuart Skinner that he has been in the past. Kind of the same as you look at like any other team, like Bobrovsky right now. He's struggling. I don't think he's playing that well. Florida needs Bobrovsky to play like Bobrovsky. If they put whoever their backup is in net, he might be able to squeak them out of some games. He's not going to win them a cup. You need a goal.
VTech.
You need that guy to win you a cup. And Stuart Skinner was that guy last year for Edmonton. He has not been that guy this year. But that's what I think they're getting at. Like, you're not going to win a cup with Calvin Pickard. All due respect to him, he's been playing good hockey, but he hasn't been playing exceptional hockey. That's where I think that's where they're coming from on that one.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's let's hop over to the Leafs, Florida. I think for Florida's, I mean, maybe you guys see it differently, but I don't think Tkachuk has gotten to his form yet.
He's injured.
I don't think he's really played.
He's hurt.
I still think he's hurt.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to ask. I hadn't heard anything.
Brady came out and said he was still hurt bad from 4 Nations. Like, he was playing because it was playoffs. That was the only reason. Like, he was still not well. And I think Matthew was hurt worse than Brady was coming out of that
Four Nations. So I have no doubt in my mind he's playing extremely injured currently, and you can see it. He has no legs with him. He's not hitting anything. He's really not getting into much scuffles. You remember Matthew Tkachuk last year? Every time the damn whistle went, whether he was on the ice or not, he was basically hopping over the boards to go start some shit. He's not doing that right now, and they need him to do that.
Yeah. So do you think that's the way that Florida gets past Toronto? They can't get past Toronto from a skill for skill. I don't think that they. I think they're close, but
you're not out of the series until you lose at home. So if they could, because they could very easily leave Florida tied 2-2 in the series and squeak out a win in Toronto, and all of a sudden it's a different series.
Yeah, I know. I get it. I understand, and I don't know. I think Florida's. Let me ask this question: what does Florida adjust to accommodate, say, the injured guys like that? And because they're still playing or trying to play a very physical game, which I guess is what their game is. But can they win if they don't have that?
They won game 3.
No, I get it, but they didn't run it. They didn't win it running away.
But neither has Toronto hasn't won running away either. Those have all been 1-goal games. So that a bounce goes the other way in those first 2 Toronto games. All of a sudden, it's a 2-1 series lead for Florida. If it's a 1-goal hockey game, yeah, sure, they went up by a lot of goals. In that first game, it was a 4-3 final score. Second game was 5-4.
Let me ask it a different way. Okay. So can Florida beat Toronto if you take completely take the physicality component? Can they beat them skill for skill, pace for pace? Can they beat them against, can they beat Toronto if they don't have that component to their game? Because they're limited right now because some of their guys can't do it.
But they still are leading the second round in hits.
Yeah, I've said this even before the playoffs started. If they don't have the Matthew Tkachuk, they're not winning the cup. They're just not. Like, he's their most important player. Like, we can, and I know Kyle's barking up on Barkov, and I get that. He's really good, but he can't do what Matthew Tkachuk does. He just can't do it.
And you can see, though, he's trying to be that agitator. You can see it more so now.
You're right.
But he can't. He doesn't have the DNA for it.
He doesn't have it. He just doesn't have that.
Yeah.
There's nobody in the game that does what Matthew Tkachuk does at this point. I mean, I think the closest comparison would have been like, prime Brad Marchand when they actually won the cup.
Who's
Boston,
on Florida right now?
I know, but that's what I'm trying to say.
It's going to have to be done by committee, but they have the guys to do it. They still have Sam Bennett. Like, they still have. He's an app.
No, I agree.
They still have.
I'm saying
rats.
They still have.
Ekholm,
they still have the
not
guys,
Ekholm,
but
Ekblad, he's a rat as well too. Like,
oh my God, he's a rat times 3.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. It's like, yes, Matthew Tkachuk is hurting 100%. This series is not over, and I would not be surprised if Florida wins 3 in a row. Like, that would not surprise me if Florida rattles off 3 straight wins out of this and wins the series 4-2. Like, that just, I'm being completely honest. It wouldn't shock me.
The deeper they can go into the playoffs, I think the better chance they have of getting a healthy Tkachuk.
I think it's just
because
it's one of those injuries he needs time off, and he's not going to get it. So I think it's going to gradually continue to get worse.
4 months off. So I'm wondering if it's almost a surgery thing where he probably is going to need to have surgery.
Pretty sure it is.
And again, if that's the case, I don't think they win the cup. Does that mean I think they don't win this round? No, I think they could definitely win this round still. Do I think they can make it to the cup final?
100%.
Sure. I still think they can make it to the cup final. I just don't think they win the cup. Not without Tkachuk going full tilt. He needs to be their guy, and he just does. He's the reason they won it. He's part of the reason they won it last year. That and Bob, but it's without him they struggle, man. They really do. They have a tough time getting to that physical game, and obviously if he was, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point he tweaks something else and they just end up pulling him for the rest of the the rest of the playoffs, honestly.
Yeah, I know. So from the Toronto side, let me ask you this then: if Stolarz is out long term, can Joe Wall do it? Can he bring him
No.
deep? I would agree. I think he's gonna this series he may be able to squeak through. But as
reminds
you
me
get
of Cal
deeper,
Pickard. He's playing good enough for Toronto to win. That's about it.
100%.
He's not stealing them games. Stolarz stole them games in the first series.
Yep, he
Stole
did.
them
He was
games.
really good.
He was very good.
Yeah.
So, and
it's
I don't
really
think he's coming back anytime soon.
Yeah,
either.
and I never really thought of him as a true number one, and I don't know if I necessarily still do, but he's definitely better than Wall for sure.
Oh yeah,
just from a compete standpoint.
I mean, he had, I think, the second or third best numbers in playoffs as of right now. So I mean, as much as maybe not a number one on paper because he hasn't done the full dance, he hasn't played the full season, done all that portion of it, but man, talk about playing like a number one. He's playing just like he should. That's exactly how a number one should be playing. Unfortunately, yes, the injury does suck significantly.
Yeah.
And to be completely honest with you, I guess we can talk a little bit about it. Do you think Bennett meant to do that? Do you think that was intentional at all?
Well, I think there was a bunch of stuff that culminated to that. I don't.
Yeah, I think it was just a. Yeah.
I mean, he took a shot in the forehead in the first period, and then he got hit by his own player at some point throughout that game as well.
Yeah.
And then I think the Bennett thing just kind of sent it over the edge. So, I mean,
I looked at the video. Maybe I didn't look at it. I didn't get to see the right angle, but it didn't look like he actually hit him in the head. It looked like he hit him in the shoulder.
He definitely got him in the head, but it, in my opinion, wasn't intentional at all. As much as Bennett,
kind of like
way different than the Marchand punch last year.
It's totally different, 100%. But like it was not. I don't believe it was intentional. Stolarz was kind of falling forward outside of the blue paint. And Bennett's kind of coming through the top of the blue paint as he should be doing. That's like his job. The other reason why we forget, Anthony Stolarz was a beloved guy in Florida last year. They loved him. They raved about him.
Yeah.
And like one of his best buddies was Sam Bennett. As like bad as I think Bennett is, I don't think he would do that to one of his best buddies, especially like a goalie. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think it was intentional at all. And I think that was half the reason why in game 2, Bennett didn't do anything. He was trying his best to basically avoid any sort of like confrontation, and he would not go around the blue paint at all. He was not going anywhere near the blue paint, which is so not Sam Bennett's game. And that's what led to some issues. And then you see game 3, we saw a little bit more of the Sam Bennett where he was starting to create a little bit more havoc. He was getting to the dirty areas. He was doing what he needed to do. But I think that genuinely, like, I don't think he meant to do it at all. And I think it shook him up a little bit as well, too, because he was avoiding everything, like the Black Plague in that game, too. It also could be injured as well, too. We don't know.
Yeah. It was, it's amazing. I think everybody on every team at this point has an injury.
Yes.
I don't think there's a player on the ice now that isn't playing with something. So, but I agree with you. I think he's going to have to be, if Matthews hurt, which we all think he is, he's going to have to be that guy that's going to create that agitation. He's going to have to elevate his game.
And Marshy needs to do more too, because that's in Marshy's DNA. That's exactly what Marshy does. He's got to do way more of that as well too.
Yeah. The one thing that let me ask you this question is, I like the way, I don't like the way he's playing, the way he plays, but I like what he's trying to do. I like the way Ekblad is playing with that real physical edge to his game. I feel, though, he's going to put his team in jeopardy if he continues to take it to the X plus X level that he's doing it at the moment, because he's going to put himself in a position where he's going to send his team down for a 5-minute major at some point in this series. It's not going to be necessary. He can play physical. I love the part of his game, but when you take it to that over the top level and trying to be more than you are, it's almost like he's playing with so much anger and rage right now that anything that gets in his
steroids,
way, so
he's got the roid rage.
Yeah, well, maybe,
maybe,
but. I just think he's going to end up hurting his team more than he's helping his team by playing with that edge. That's all I'm saying. And like I said, I like the way he plays the game otherwise, because he's a very high end defenseman. But when he does does those other little things that take it over the edge, I think he's going to end up hurting him more than helping him in the long run.
Well, he's going to end up getting. I mean, if he gets a 5-minute, I mean, he's probably going to get suspended for at least the rest of this series.
Yeah, no,
so
I agree.
He'll get at least 4 or 5 games of a suspension.
He's playing like he's never been suspended before.
I know, it's crazy. Like he's definitely he's towing the line, and I think he needs to really be careful. They
really need him from a defensive side of the puck. They even he's offensively, he jumps in when he needs to, but to get, if he's suspended at any point, later, deeper in the playoffs, that's gonna really hurt Florida.
Yeah, it's gonna kill him. Yeah.
So he plays with reckless abandonment, that's for sure.
Yeah,
no. So anyways, so let's I think we got one more series. One more to talk about. One more to talk about. We got Dallas, Winnipeg. Sort of a home. We're holding serve at home at the moment with that one. Dallas won both, and I think didn't Dallas won both in Dallas.
They have only played in Winnipeg. They played 2 games in Winnipeg. Sorry. It's a 1-1 series right now.
Yeah, so they got one on the
Dallas won game 1, Winnipeg won game 2.
What the hell was I thinking?
They play. Anyways. I don't even know when they play.
I was going to say Winnipeg's the President's Trophy winner, so they have home ice all the time.
So they have home ice through all of it.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yep. Sorry. That was the Mikko Rantanen back-to-back hat tricks.
Oh, that's right. They play today.
He had 2 hat tricks in 3 periods. Tell me the stat that's crazier than.
Yeah.
Yeah, they play today at 4:30.
Today at 4:30.
Yes, today's game 3.
What a horrible start time.
Yeah.
And then Florida is at 7:30 in Florida. So.
Well, that's why that's that horrible start time. They had to get the prime time game.
Yeah.
I know.
So, I mean, honestly, I haven't watched much of the Dallas Winnipeg series, but Dallas is good. I mean, they're really good. I mean, has Heiskanen come back in? I know Robertson came back into the lineup, but Heiskanen is still
out. So they're still doing this without Heiskanen. The one thing that scares the daylights out of me, if I'm a Stars fan right now, is Connor Hellebuyck just got a shutout. So you don't all of a sudden there's a reason he's a Vezina and MVP. Like, he's the Vezina winner. There's no doubt in my mind.
I don't trust him.
And an MVP candidate. I'm just saying, if he gets some confidence going for him, it could be lights out. Like, if he gets a little bit of confidence going for him, because he's never really had confidence in playoffs. Now all of a sudden he's pitched a shutout. That could do a lot for the guy. And we have to see him do it on the road, because he's got the absolute worst road numbers I've ever seen on a goalie. Like, in a starting goalie, worst road numbers. So he's got to figure out how to do it on the road. But that's a good stepping stone. Like, you want to, you can't really, I mean, he could have let up 5 more goals, and then we're right into day 1, and they're down 0-2 in the series, but he doesn't let up any. And, I think Winnipeg, the bigger thing was Winnipeg played a more complete effort in front of him. They played defensively strong. They didn't let up these weird odd man chances that they always let up. They didn't let up these like in the regular season, they're one of those teams that you almost call like an anaconda, where they just slowly choke you out throughout the game. They get a lead, a lot like Carolina, get a lead and just slowly choke out the life of you through defending the puck well, through getting pucks out, through forechecking hard, through doing all those things. They didn't get to that at all in this first series. The full team. Yeah. So it's hard to blame it solely on Hellebuyck. Was he good? Absolutely not. He was a hot pile of garbage in that first series. But they got through. Again, don't know how, but they got through. Now they gave a complete effort in front of him where they were doing all those little things. They got a lead early. They got it in the first 5 minutes on a power play goal. And then after that, they just kept riding the wave and slowly but surely built up a 4-goal lead and just choked out the Dallas Stars. Exactly how they have been playing in the regular season. So now they prove to themselves they can do it in playoffs. Again, if I'm Dallas, that's the only worrisome thing for me. Outside of that, if they go back to the Winnipeg of old, Dallas is going to smoke this series out.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing I had, and I didn't watch game 2. So I'm leaning on you guys a little bit here, but Was that the first game back for Shifley and Morrissey?
No, Shifley played game one. Morrissey,
Shifley played game one.
Yeah, that was Morrissey's first game.
That was definitely
Morrissey's first game back on the backside. Okay,
which
so,
that helped a lot.
He's critical.
Yeah, helped a lot.
That's critical on the D side. I mean, a lot of people don't realize how good Josh Morrissey is until he's out of the lineup, because he's not a big man. He's not big at all. When you see him next to some of the other guys, but he's so quick and agile and defensively responsible, and he's offensively gifted. So, he's important to them.
One other important piece to this Winnipeg team that I think he didn't start in the playoffs, but I think he's going to be a continued rotation guy. But Fleury has been playing. I think it's Hayden.
Yeah,
it's Hayden. I wasn't sure because I'm pretty sure they had Cale Fleury in their system as well too, who's his younger brother. But I wasn't sure if that was him or not. But yeah, so Hayden Fleury, since coming into the lineup, now granted, I don't know, did he come out with Morrissey coming back into the lineup? Because that could have been
he probably did
the switch. But I thought Hayden Fleury played very well coming into the lineup in the limited minutes that he was playing. That was one thing that did stand out to me, especially in that game 7 of last series. He was very good.
I thought he was one of their better defensemen in that series. The
end of that series when Morrissey went out, I thought he was he stepped up to the plate and played very meaningful minutes and played them very well. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, is Thomas Harley a top or like a number 1 defenseman on other teams if he's not on Dallas behind Heiskanen?
Depending on the team, I think, but yes,
I think on a lot of teams he's a number 1 guy right now.
Definitely top pair defenseman,
but didn't it last year he just come into the lineup because somebody got hurt? He wasn't like he was. He came into the even in play. I thought it was in playoffs last year that he came in.
He's a first round draft pick, so they were expecting him to be good. So yes, he did come in due to injury, but it wasn't like he came in due to injury and just all of a sudden ran away with it. They were expecting him to make this step at some point, basically.
Yeah.
So,
well, he led them in minutes. In the last.
He's led them in minutes all playoffs. He's been their number 1 defenseman.
25 minutes. So it's be interesting to see how this series racks up if Heiskanen is able to come back into the lineup. You never know how easily or quickly he can ease his way back in. But
the nice thing with how Thomas Harley is playing, though, is you don't have to throw him in and have him play 25, 26 minutes right away. You can have him come in and play 8-9 minutes on the third pair and just let him get his feet wet again and let him get used to the game, because it would be different if all of us, yes, the last game was the last game. They lost 4-0, 100%. They lose game 3, 4 or 5-0, then it becomes more worrisome. Maybe we start asking questions. But as of right now, Thomas Harley has done everything you could have asked of him. And so now he's like, okay, if I'm, who's the coach there? Why am I blanking on this guy?
Oh, and Harley,
Pete DeBoer. Yeah, if I'm Pete DeBoer, I am in no rush to get Heiskanen back. I'm waiting for him to be 100% healthy because, as we all said, everybody in playoffs is playing injured. So if you can have 100% healthy Miro Heiskanen, even if it's not until the conference finals, do you know how big of an advantage that is? Especially if you're going to have to play Edmonton, which it looks, I still have confidence they're going to get out of that series. So if you're having to play McDavid and Draisaitl, you need 100% healthy Miro Heiskanen. And if you could just prolong his coming back with Thomas Harley playing as good as he is, if I'm Pete DeBoer, I'm holding off as long as possible to basically be like, take your time, dude. We're in a good spot right now. Take your time. Yeah. We're good.
Yeah. Yeah. So it should be interesting to, see how Dallas holds serve at home. So we'll see if they can. Great. But we'll see. But it's going to be interesting to see how Winnipeg plays away from home. And how they compete against it. And Dallas is a tough place to play. I mean, it's not an easy arena to be in. It's loud, not as loud as ours, but it's loud. Everybody says we're the loudest barn in the NHL, and I think it's true. I mean, it's deafening in there when you go in there, and it's rocking.
I'd argue La Centre Bell.
Yeah, well, the problem with that place is it's bigger. I think ours is a little bit more compact, and somebody said to me the other day, and I don't know if it's true or not, so I fact check me on this one, but they said they actually designed it in such a way to make it louder, to get the acoustics to be louder than they would be in a normal arena configuration. I have no idea if that's true or not. But anyways, I heard it, so I thought I'd share it. And if anybody fact checks me and tells me I'm full of shit, that's fine. I have no problem with that. But I thought it was a pretty interesting.
It makes sense.
Interesting concept
due to the fact of it probably has a lot to do with the fact that we just didn't put anything over the roof, so it's just straight sheet metal pinging noise back at the ground. I would assume that has something to do with it. But then you also look at a place like MSG who has perfect acoustics. That place gets bumping as well too when it gets rocking. But they also have, the acoustic padding that echoes sound around the arena. So of course it's going to sound a little bit louder in there. But yeah, I think just throw a little sheet metal over top, let the noise ping back down, and that's how you get it rocking.
Yeah. So I guess we'll close this week on a couple of, I guess maybe not a couple, but at least one NHL note that
we didn't talk about the New York Rangers head coach either last week, I don't believe.
Yeah, so we got a couple of coaching changes in around the league. So I guess let's just take a spin on those two and see likes, dislikes. Joel Quenneville back in the NHL. He's heading to Anaheim, and then Mike Sullivan heads from Pittsburgh and ends up the New York Rangers head coach,
becoming the highest paid head coach in the NHL, might I add.
Yeah. So let's start in Anaheim. That one's a pretty intriguing hire for me. I think it's going to be really good because Q is a really good player coach from what I understand. And I think he's got a lot of young kids out there that I think he's going to get a lot out of. Cronin was just I call him the old curmudgeon. I mean, he was just a X's and O. Wasn't really much of a player's coach from what I understand. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think Q is going to be a good ad for Anaheim.
To be completely honest, they're both dictators. It's just Q is a little bit better at communicating his dictation. That's all it really comes down to. I mean, from I've heard multiple people, including Keith Yandel, talking about Q when he had him in Florida. It's his way or the highway, and there's no way around it. Yeah, he just does a little bit better job at communicating it than Cronin does, and it sounds more and more like Cronin's just a grumpy old man. But I'm with the whole situation going on with Quenneville's past and the reason why he had to leave the organization, had to take time away from the game to do all of the, rehabilitation steps or whatever the I guess righting the wrong steps from the Kyle Beach incident and everything along those lines. But the one cool thing I will say, and I just wanted to put this out there for anybody that's very opposed to Q coming back, everybody deserves a second chance, first of all. Not the asshole that did whatever he did to Kyle Beach, but, yes, Q was in the wrong, did wrong things, didn't come forward with information that he may or may not have had. I'm not entirely sure the entire situation there. But Joel Quenneville reached out to Kyle Beach before accepting this job and said, if you're not okay with me being back in the NHL, I will not accept a position. I will not go through with this. I want you to be 100% comfortable with this. If you don't feel like I belong back in the NHL because of the actions that happened to you on basically when I was overwatching the organization, then I won't be back in the NHL. But Kyle Beach said, I want to move forward in life and I want to continue, down the path of recovery and healing and doing all that kind of piece. And he allowed Quenneville to go back to the NHL. So I felt like that was a very cool piece to that kind of solidified that whole story. Was Quenneville in the wrong? Yes. Or did he admit that he was in the wrong? Yes. Was there things that he could have done significantly better? Yes. So I'm interested to see how that plays a role into, does he have a different dialect when he's coaching? Does he change the way he does certain things when he's coaching? Because, while the dictatorship clearly works, he's a 3-time Stanley Cup champion, does it work with the new age players? Does it work with guys that aren't Jonathan Taves, Patrick Sharp, Patty Kane? Like, does it work with guys that aren't like that? Because they're built different now. Everybody, they're built different. So you have to talk to them a different way. You have to communicate it in a different way. And can Q do that? That remains to be seen. So I think as far as what Q's walking into, it's a very similar situation than as he was walking in with Chicago. I think the high-end talent in Chicago is a touch better than the high-end talent in Anaheim is, but like Leo Carlsson's going to be a gamer. He's a really good hockey player. Zegras, I think, has more to his game than he's given out so far. Mason McTavish, talk about being a game. Like, remember the game-saving stick play he had on the goal line in the World Junior Championships? Like, that's a gamer. That's a guy you want in your corner. And he can play a very similar style to those Matthew and Brady Tkachuk's. I just don't think he's unlocked his game yet. Anaheim has a lot of young, promising talent. I think Q can maximize a lot of that out of those guys. It's just about filling in the spots around it. You know, you got to find those Marian Hosas to add. You got to find those other pieces to add to your puzzle to make sure that you can be a contender. But I'm excited for it. I think Q is going to do really good things over there. I wouldn't be surprised if Anaheim has a good charge next year. Even if they make the playoffs, wouldn't be that surprised with it.
Yeah, I think they need a couple more pieces, but yeah, I think they're, I don't know. I think the Zegras experiment is interesting though for me. I still don't know how I feel about him. I'm going to be real honest. He was really good his rookie year, and then the year after, I think he played really well also. But he's kind of been like, and I understand maybe it's a
lot of injury problems,
the team dynamic, or the coach, or that could be a lot of different stuff. But at the end, I don't know. I don't know if I'm Q, do you try and move off of Zegras, try and get something for him in a trade? Because his trade value right now would still be pretty good. So I think you could get a couple of really good depth pieces and build around guys like Leo Carlsson, McTavish, like the younger guys that are really showing a lot more promise than I think.
Cutter Gauthier as well too. I forget he's out
That's
there.
What I mean. Like they got these guys, and I think they could get a good return from a Zegras trade. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of one of the first moves that he tries to make, as just a big splash being with him and the GM. But who knows? Maybe and it might be an ownership thing too, where they're just like, hey, we can't move off this guy. He's kind of our star.
He's the marketing
I guess,
piece right now. That's the biggest.
He's the marketing guy. So
he fits
that might be the issue.
Yeah, he fits that California kid vibe. So from a marketing perspective, I think he's a gold mine from their side.
He has a big social media following. He's always with those influencers. He does a lot of good things for the organization, 100%. So it's funny because we don't like to think that sometimes plays a role in it, but in these lower market teams where they're not making playoffs, and it's like you have to have something that's keeping the organization relevant. Right now, Zegras is keeping them relevant, not with his on the ice plays per se, but more with the off the ice stuff that he's doing with the social media, with the influencers, with all that other stuff, that it makes it hard. It's almost like Eric Stahl when he was in Carolina. It's like that was the only thing we could market. We didn't have much else for 10 years there, but we had Eric Stahl and we had Cam Ward. We had 2 cup winners on the team still. And it was like, we kept signing them to contracts, A, because we had to at least make the floor for the salary cap. And B, that was the only 2 things that kept us semi-relevant, was that we had a cup winning goaltender of Conn Smythe winning goaltender. And did Cam win a Vezina? I want to say he did 1 year.
No.
He never did?
I don't think so.
Did he not? Okay.
Yeah. So I think I think they're on the right track. I think, and you never mentioned goaltending. I think the Dostal kid's going to be really.
Dostal's really good.
He's going to be really good long term. I think they finally found, their number one. I think they've been kind of dancing around it with John Gibson for a long time. He's a good goaltender. Is he a great goaltender? I don't think so. I'm really glad we steered clear of him, but anyway, so let's, I guess Anaheim will, to be seen how the Q impact in Anaheim, but, how about Sullivan in New York? He was an assistant coach there, I believe, under Tortorella.
Yep.
So he does have some history with the organization. So it'll be interesting to see how he and Drury kind of formulate and build a team, and who's going to be out. That's going to be the interesting thing in the offseason or trades as they come through the after the trade deadline or the RFA period opens, is how that team looks going into training camp. Because I think there's going to be a lot of pieces moved out. But it's going to be interesting to see what kind of changes he wants to make under under a Mike Sullivan coached team versus a Lavi team, because Lavi's he coaches completely, well, not completely different than everybody else, but he coaches to a 2 or 3 year window, and then that's it.
That's all. I feel like a lot of coaches though in the NHL. There's very few. I feel like it's rare to do what Mike Sullivan did and be around an organization for 10 plus years. That's a dime a dozen nowadays. It's him, John Cooper, and Rod. Name it. Those are the only 3 coaches that have been around a team longer than 4 years in the past 10, basically. So, it's just guys with certain coaches, especially the ones that are a little bit harsher on their players. They have a shelf life. And you're starting to see more and more of that. The only guys that really have longer 10-year periods is either you have a Sidney Crosby on your team who hates change and is the best player in the world for, it feels like 20 years now. I mean, he's right up there. We could be in the conversation with it this year still. But when you have that level of superstar, I kind of feel like the situation in Edmonton could kind of be the same too, where most of the team doesn't really like what's his face is saying, Knobloch still there? No, is that Knobloch? Yeah, so they might not like what Knobloch is saying, but if Connor likes what Knobloch is saying and Leon likes what Knobloch is saying, doesn't matter what anybody else likes, they're going to keep him around. So that a little bit could be tangent in that way as far as Sullivan goes, and even a little bit with Cooper and Kucherov. A little bit could be done there, but I think with those 2 guys and a lot with Rod too, they're very, very, very good people. They're good people, as bad as that is to say, but they're good with people. They know
they're good. Yeah,
they know how to communicate.
Their personal skills are good.
They know how to communicate. They know how to do what they need to do. So I think
that's the way to put it.
It was a good hire for New York, but it's not going to fix the problem. The problem lies within the roster, not the coach right now. So they have to fix the roster
100%.
before they're going to be relevant again. But I don't think it's going to be as big of a drastic change as we're expecting it to be, because we're only 1 year removed from them being the President's Trophy winner as well too. So there are good pieces to this roster. They just have to solidify those good pieces with other pieces around it that aren't the current pieces. I think Kreider's out. I wouldn't be surprised if Benajad is out. But outside of that, I don't think very much else moves in that roster. That's my personal opinion on that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it has to change, and I think it will change to what degree we're to be seen, but I think they have to, because it worked, but it's not working, and Sullivan's a different coach than Lavi is, so he's gonna ask different things from different players, and maybe that's all that these guys needed. But again, Kreider's getting older, and he still has some trade value. He still has some value to somebody else as a depth
this
player.
Season, so it might just be New York doesn't re-sign him, which I don't think they're going to.
Yeah, I fully believe they don't.
I don't think they're going to. Which I honestly, if we can get him on a good deal, I wouldn't mind having Chris Kreider on a good deal.
I mean, 4th line winger. I mean,
2-year contract, no like 3.5 a year. I'm cool with that because he can play up the second line. Basically, he can go up and down the lineup as well too. So.
So.
Yeah, and it's interesting with Sullivan too, because I don't think Laviolette was the problem. I think the way that the type of players that they have on that team, like if they want to be a true contender, they got to do some checks in the mirror on the guys that they have leading their team. I mean, if I'm Drury, I'm looking at, we need to shed about 4 or 5 top guys, like just shed them. 2 defensemen that need to go for sure. If I'm New York, I'm not saying that I want them on other teams, but if I'm New York, I'm getting rid of Adam Fox and I'm getting rid of K'Andre Miller while they have value. 100%. If you're in a rebuild, blow it up.
Yeah.
Like get rid of them, get some value back for them, get some good quality roster pieces along with some good draft picks. And on the top end, I'd try and get rid of Panarin if you can while he still has some value. Zibanejad's got to go. Obviously, Kreider's not going to re-sign, and I think you try and get some value for Lafreniere. I think
there's any value.
I think Lafreniere's been such a dud.
That he's
I don't know if he has any value.
The issue is that he's now on an $8.5 million a year contract.
Oh, that's right. He did just re-sign, didn't he?
Yeah, like nobody's taking that contract for the value they're getting out of it.
No one's taking that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do go through a rebuild and it takes longer than a year or two, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Shesterkin say that he wants out.
Which would just
honestly,
prolong the rebuild
and he
even
wants
further.
to go to a contender.
Yep.
That's what I'm like. It's they really need a retool. They can't afford to rebuild, because if they try and rebuild, they're gonna lose Shesterkin, and that's their guy. They need him.
That's why I don't think they get rid of anybody outside of Zibanejad and Kreider, and that's just Kreider's walking.
And they probably will miss the playoffs again next year. So again,
it depends.
As a Canes fan, I love it. I love it to death,
depends.
because I think the problem is Drury and how he builds the team. I don't think it has anything to do with the coaching. I think Drury should have gone along with Laviolette.
Yeah.
But obviously, as a Canes fan, I love that Drury's still there. So I'll put an exclamation point on that. I love that he's still there, because that team is going nowhere fast.
I think if they could do what Toronto did, I think they have a better chance of making playoffs than not. But Toronto went out and added 2 big defensemen in Tanev and OEL.
Yep.
Which helped significant. Those 2 guys have been lights out for Toronto so far this year.
Mm-hmm.
And then they went out and added a Scott Lawton. Yeah, I know that was a little bit later into the trade deadline, but they signed a long-term piece in Max Domi. They went and added grit and depth into the deep pieces of their lineup. I don't think New York has any grit and depth in the deep pieces of their lineup. I think they have a goon in Matt Rempe, but outside of that, they don't have they don't have
but you
players.
Don't need that.
Yeah, that's the problem is they don't.
I don't see him
players.
playing next year.
So it's like if they could go out and add depth pieces around the good pieces that they have, I think they can still be not a contender, but I think they could contend for the playoffs.
They need guys like Yanni Gore. They need guys like Barclay Goodrow. They need him back. I mean, quite honestly,
Sam Bennett.
they got rid of one of their best depth
So that's the thing, Cam. If they go out and sign Sam Bennett and then go add a or not even a depth defensive piece, but a top 4 defenseman to play alongside, yeah, sure, I could see. Keandre Miller's not bad. He's soft as baby poo, but if you can get him alongside a good defenseman who can lock it down defensively, I'm sure Keandre could have positive numbers, because he's a good puck moving defenseman. Like, when he's playing well, he does play very well. It's just he's very inconsistent. He's all over the shop, and when he's so soft. So you got to put him next to. If he had Chris Tanev next to him, I bet you Keandre Miller's numbers are looking a hell of a lot better than they are now. But he doesn't have that piece. He had Jacob Trouba beside him for a long time, and now he's playing with Adam Fox. It's like that's not helping him at all.
Yeah.
No, and I think it's tough though. I mean, and I think, I don't know if it was the Spittin' Chicklets guy. I think it was Ryan Whitney that had said this, but teams that win the cup, they all have that one defenseman who's just an anchor. He's their defensive defenseman. Yep. He's physical. He's gritty. They had that in Trouba. They as much of a liability as Trouba could be.
I was gonna say
physical. He would sell out. He would do the dirty things. He would do the stuff that Adam Fox isn't willing to do. Like, and if Adam Fox is your number 1 defenseman on a team, you're not winning a cup, man. It's just not happening. I don't care how much skill he has. I really don't. You're not winning a cup with him as your number 1 defenseman.
I feel the same with Quinn
So they
Hughes.
really need a number 1. They need a number 1 defensive defenseman. They need a big. Maybe they go out throwing trade pieces at possibly, I don't know if Dallas would do this, but for a guy like Thomas Harley, like just a big anchor of a defenseman that can eat minutes and just be the guy. Florida last year, they have Ekblad. He's just a guy that eats minutes. He might not be the flashiest guy in the world, but he's just an anchor.
You can go.
You need those guys.
You can go across any playoff team right now, and outside of probably Winnipeg, I think every single one of those teams, and maybe Edmonton right now, just because.
And maybe Edmonton too. Yeah.
Outside of those guys, there's an anchor on every one of those decors. I mean, Thomas Harley right now in Dallas, Ekblad in Florida, Tanev in Toronto. We have. Guess who on Washington? Chychrun. Jacob Chychrun has been defensively so sound outside of the 1-2-on-1 last night that went in, but that was more on the goalie than anything else. But then you have Slavin in Carolina. Like, you go around every team that's still in it. I totally agree with you, Cam. It's every team that's still in it's got an anchor. I wouldn't put Trouba in that anchor category. He's just too defensively lackluster positional wise to be in that. But like, if New York could go out and add even I know he's not going to go anywhere, but like a Brett Pesce, like somebody like that, where it's like, yes, he does all the things Trouba does well, but he also is good defensively. Like that's what they need as well. That was the problem they had with Trouba is he did all the dirty work and all that stuff, but he'd still be a -4. Like he'd still be on the ice for 4 goals against because he'd be out of position trying to elbow somebody in the forehead. So
the other thing I thought about too for New York, and I don't, like I said, he's getting a little bit older, so I'm not sure if it's a good fit or not. But the guy that can eat minutes, I mean, he could probably play 30 minutes a night is Justin Falk. I think he's one of those defensemen that he's a good defenseman. Is he a great defenseman still anymore? I don't know, but you need a guy like that can anchor. Yeah, McDonough, exactly, perfect example. A guy that can add those kind of that security blanket, to the back end.
To know you can throw him on the ice in any situation, and he's probably going to perform. He's not going to blink, basically.
Yep.
The issue is there's just not that many of those guys in the league.
No, I get it. I get it. There's not a lot of guys who can play 29, 30 minutes a game. There's not a lot of guys that can do that, and physically do it. But those are the few guys that can do it, and I think they have so much value still, even though they're getting older. I think they'll add a veteran dimension to a defensive core that is lackluster, to say the least. So.
Yeah.
So anyways, anything else on the Rangers or anybody else you guys want to chat up here before we head out?
I am good.
I'm all set.
I'm good too. So anyways, I forgot to mention early on, but for those that made it way deep into the podcast, happy Mother's Day to everybody. Big day for all the moms out there. I know you guys have a cool one on this end. I had a cool one as well. So anyways, everybody out there, happy Mother's Day, and until next week, for Cam, Kyle, and myself, have a great week.